What's up guys? I know what you're thinking, yet another video on the debt snowball method. Well, this is different guys. We're going to look at the pros and cons of the debt snowball method from a banker's perspective. Stick around guys. Stick around till the end where I'll be giving you a simple alternative method which is proven to work when it comes to paying off your debts. Hi guys, it's Warren Gosling here, back again with simple, actionable financial literacy tips. If you find today's video useful, do three things for me guys. Three things for me guys. Like it, share it, and subscribe. I also love interacting with you guys, so let me know how I'm doing by commenting below or reaching out to me on Instagram. I'm at Warren Gosling, up there or there somewhere. So if you've watched my other video guys, you'll know that I am a banker. I've worked in the industry for over a decade now, initially specializing in credit risk, debt restructuring. I've worked at most of the major banks that you can think of on the high street and globally, corporately. So I have a pretty good idea of how they operate when it comes to customers and clients in debt. And from a banker's perspective, there's two key things that you need to know. Number one is that they have a commercial interest in recovering as much of an outstanding loan amount as possible so that they can avoid what we call provisions on their profit and loss and impairments on their balance sheets. So in simple terms, if you owe the bank, say £1,000, they're going to want to recover £1,000 in full to avoid taking any sorts of financial losses. Number two is that the financial regulators, that's the PRA, the Prudential Regulatory Authority, and the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, they require banks to also preserve the interests of their customers as it relates to their conduct towards them. So what that means is that even if you owe them money, they can't come after you like, say, a loan shark would. They have a duty to you, to me, to us, to collect their money owed in a responsible and ethical way. So overall, what this means is that the bank has to balance collecting their debts with treating you fairly. So bearing that all in mind, now let's look at the debt snowball and add that to this equation. So what is the debt snowball method? The debt snowball method involves you clearing out your smallest balances first whilst paying the minimum payments on your larger debts. Once your smallest debt is paid off, you then move on to the next largest and the next largest and the next largest. So to do this in practice, there are four basic steps. First is that you want to list all of your debts in ascending order from smallest to largest. Next is that you establish what the minimum payments on each of your debts are. You can do this by calling them up and asking them. And then you put arrangements in place to make the minimum payment on every debt except the smallest one. On this one, you want to pay as much as you can afford. Then lastly, you want to repeat this for each of the debts as you go larger and larger. So if we convert this into a simple example, imagine we have the following debts. Say we have a mortgage arrears of £4,000, a credit card overdue of £3,000, and an overdraft on demand of £1,000. If we use the debt snowball method, we're going to pay off the overdraft first because it's the smallest balance, then the credit card second, and the largest debt, the mortgage arrears, last. Now, can you spot anything potentially problematic if we do this exact method as it recommends? Don't worry, I'll give you a sec. So there are two key things that the debt snowball method doesn't take into account. The first is an obvious one, but easily overlooked. Can you even do this, right? And then secondly is less obvious, but does this method leave you better off financially overall? If you've watched my previous video on prioritizing debt, you'll know that there are certain types of debt that must be paid before others. Otherwise, some kind of enforcement action is coming your way. These are what we call priority debts, and guys, it doesn't matter whether these debts have higher or lower balances than others. I hate to break it to you, but lenders and providers generally aren't interested in the strategy overall that you're choosing to pay them off with, guys. Their primary focus is that they want their money repaid as soon as possible. It's really that simple. So in this example, you cannot rock up to your mortgage lender and say, oh, hey there, just so you know, I'm actually following a strategy. It's called the debt snowball method, and I'll be making minimum payments on my 4K debt for the next 6 to 12 months until I've paid off my other debts. Is that okay? Thank you very much. Guys, play this scenario out in your heads from the bank's perspective. What do you think is going to happen? Or what would you do? Understandably, the mortgage lender is going to politely tell you where to stick that offer. Why? Because they have what we call a charge over your house, a first charge normally, and they'll be completely within their rights under certain circumstances to enforce that charge, take the house off your hands and sell it to recover their debt. I know this because I've worked in credit risk functions of many global banks over the years and seen this exact scenario play out many times over, especially during 2008 during the crash where assets were getting enforced upon left, right and centre. So mortgages are a priority debt, guys. So I'm not saying that there aren't lenders out there who wouldn't be agreeable to a snowball type of arrangement if that's what you chose to do. But having worked in the industry all over the past decade, I'm yet to see a bank that would agree to those specific circumstances. Secondly, let's look at whether this method leaves you better off financially overall. If we go back to the example that we just used using the snowball method, the credit card would end up being paid off later down the line. Now, in the UK, the average credit card interest rate, just in case you're interested, is 20.77%, call it 21%, right? So if it takes you, say, a year to clear your overdraft first, you're incurring very high interest costs every month during that time on your credit card. It might well have been cheaper for you to have paid off your credit card before your overdraft, assuming that the interest on your overdraft was less than 21%, which normally they are. Okay, so we've just seen a pretty common example where the debt snowball method isn't necessarily going to be allowed by the lenders or providers, nor does it necessarily leave you better financially off overall. So what are the actual benefits of the debt snowball method? Well, the debt snowball method does tick the boxes when it comes to what we call behavioural finance. And behavioural finance is the arm of finance that looks at the effects of human psychology on our financial decision making. We all know that we don't always act rationally when it comes to money, do we, guys? Wars are fought for it, people die and kill for it, people idolize it, and everything in between. Even one of the world's oldest and most read books says the love of money is the root of all evil. I mean, that tells us all we need to know, guys, right? Money is emotional. Money is psychological. It's not just numerical or theoretical. It's not just maths, right? For example, when we're rich, we feel confident, but when we're broke, we feel anxious, depressed, stressed, and we've all experienced these very real emotional aspects of money, guys. I certainly have. I don't know about you guys watching right now. And the snowball method ties into this really well on a lot of levels regarding your perception of progress. So the first is that by making large, chunky payments on your smaller debts, you clear them faster. And this reinforces your feelings of progress and it keeps you motivated as you progress on to the next one and the next one and the next one until your largest one is done. The second aspect is that concentrating on one debt at a time also appears to impact feelings of progress to a greater degree than paying multiple debts all at the same time. It's like juggling many plates versus just juggling one. Now, these make good sense to me, and actually I don't disagree with them at all. But I'd be very interested to hear your opinions and experience on this. So let me know in the comment section below if you've done the snowball method and how it's made you feel like mentally and emotionally. So when it comes to the debt snowball methodology, what we're really talking about is the psychology and the motivational benefits that it brings to people, which are vital when it comes to successfully paying down debt. Vital, guys. However, as we mentioned earlier, while this sounds great in theory, it doesn't necessarily always work in practice, as lenders and providers might not allow you to approach repayment of their debts in this way. So what is the actual solution? What can I give you that's simple and actionable? Because I don't want to leave you empty-handed with no solution, guys. So from a banking perspective and from an industry perspective, the answer is to start with your budget. If you don't have one, that's okay, I've got you. There's one in the description section below, so have a download of that. This budget is very handy because it will do all the work and all the sums for you, and it will tell you how much you have available for debt after all of your monthly spending each month. It also tells you what your priority debts are. So once you've done all this, the next step is a slightly adapted version of the snowball method. We've just seen that the snowball method tells you to make minimum payments on all of your debts except the smallest one. From a banker's perspective, I would recommend that you make the minimum payment on your non-priority debts. That's the minimum payment on your non-priority debts, and spread the remainder over your priority debts equally. I told you it was simple. So if we go back to our example, it would look something like this, guys. You pay minimum payment on your overdraft and your credit card, as these are not priority debts, and you pay your remaining cash available towards your mortgage. That's a priority debt on the list in this case. And from a finance industry perspective, I would take that approach because it follows what we call the creditor waterfall method, which means that the most secure lenders who can take enforcement are paid off first, and it ensures that you're protected from enforcement by those creditors because you're paying them off in the appropriate order. As well as that, it also makes you better off financially. And that's it, guys. Go ahead and give it a try. I am confident that you will see genuine results using this method. I'm going to call it the Debt Snowball Method 2.0. If you have any questions or issues, let me know in the comment section below. I am happy to help, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon.